we're doing is the blatant, unchecked price rise across commodities. And if you actually look at how prices have gone up, it is very clear that not even one section of the Indian society is being spared. It almost seems like the electoral victory has become an untold, unexplained license for the BJP to loot the common man in this country. I will first give you some figures and then get into the details. Over the last 8 years, the BJP government has fleeced the common man to the tune of 26 lakh crore rupees in taxes on fuel. At the same time, they have written off loans worth 11 lakh crore rupees for some of the richest Indians in this country. So they take from you and they're actually putting money into the hands of the rich. On purchasing power parity, domestic gas LPG is costliest in India and the world. Petrol is the third costliest and diesel is the seventh costliest. Out of an average daily income, 1/4 goes into petrol, which is nearly 24%, 21% in diesel and 16% in LPG. Households' budgets in this country, the money that one is using to run a kitchen, to run a household, has gone up by nearly 10% in the last 6 months and nearly 45% in the last 2 years. Food prices have risen very sharply. Lime is being sold at 320 per kg and food prices are expected to go up by another 22%. I will firstly talk about fuel, and it's important because in 16 days prices have gone up 14 times and today petrol and diesel is costlier by 10 rupees per litre. There was 137 days when elections were being held, not a single price rise, and now prices are going up consistently. The yearly burden because of the 10 rupee hike is about 72,000 crore rupees on the people of this country. Today in Ernakulam, petrol costs 115 rupees per litre and diesel at 102, LPG has crossed 1,000 rupee mark. When UPA was in power, the same petrol was sold at 71.5 rupees and diesel at 55.5 rupees. Our MP was kind enough to tell me on our way here that kerosene is something that a lot of fishermen in this part of the world use. In one shot, kerosene prices were raised by 21 rupees. If you compare it to the UPA prices are up 810 rupees. How is this happening? Because they will turn around and say the states should do something about it. Yes, the states must do something about it. But the reality is that the union government has consistently raised the price by hiking excise duty. And even in excise duty, there are 3 kinds of excise duty: basic, special and additional. Basic is shared with the states, additional and special is not shared with the states. And the component of the excise hike that has been raised is actually special and additional. So 531% hike in excise on diesel and over 200% hike in excise on petrol. In just last 1 year, this government collected over 4 lakh crore rupees from taxes on fuel. And subsidy has gone down sharply. From 1,42,000 crore rupees that we were paying in 2014 to ring fence the common man to protect the poor, today that has gone down to 5,000 crore rupees. So the government made up its mind even before the budget happened that we will not subsidize the poor, and which is why we saw a body blow as far as subsidies are concerned. LPG prices after the elections were over went up by 50 rupees for domestic cylinder. For commercial cylinders, the price in Delhi is over 2,200 rupees. That impacts the food that we buy from the vendors, from the streets, from the restaurants and things like that. Very many people in the BJP say do not drive diesel and petrol cars, switch to CNG. CNG prices are costlier by over 9 rupees per kg. That's an additional burden of 1,400 crore rupees. Piped natural gas. Instead of LPG, we are using piped natural gas prices have gone up by nearly 6 rupees per SCM, which is an additional burden of 961 rupees. Prices of fertilizer, and I'm going to talk about farmers in particular, because 62 crore farmers all over the country, and why are they being impacted? It almost seems that the government is taking revenge for the farmer protests. First, the NPK's prices were increased by 50 rupees, additional burden of 3740 crore rupees, and DAP increased also with an additional burden of 3600 crore rupees. I said household expenses are up. Common flour, besan, horse gram flour, vegetable prices, milk prices, everything has gone up. So in the last 2 years alone, household expenditure budgets have gone up by 45%. And it's consistently rising. Toll taxes from the 1st of April, and the reason why we are talking to the press is because everything began post 1st of April. It was almost like a New Year gift that the government tried to give us during the new financial year. Toll taxes have gone up between 10 to 18%, which is an additional burden of over 6,000 crore rupees. Medicines all across the country are up by over 11%, almost 11%, and common cold medicines, paracetamol, azithromycin, flu medicines, preventive medicines for corona, heart disease, high blood pressure, anemia, skin diseases, basic medicines, prices of 800 essential medicines up nearly 11%. The cost of building a house sharply up, almost 15%. Prices of steel, cement, bricks, copper, sanitary ware, boards, everything has gone up. Under Section 80EEA, the first-time home buyers were getting the benefit of an additional tax deduction of up to 1.5 lakh. That has been withdrawn. Tax on your retirement saving. PF is retirement saving, and the government has decided to tax the interest on that as well if your contribution is over 2.5 lakh rupees every annum. The cost of owning a car is up, obviously, because input prices have gone up, and last but not the least, by hiking the duty of by 30% on aluminium core and concentrate, the price of refrigerator, LED bulbs, AC, everything has gone up between 15%, and for mobile phones, 20 to 30%. So the simple point that we are trying to make here is that there is not a single sphere of a common man's life today which is not more expensive than what it was on the 1st of April. It almost seems to suggest that beginning this financial year, the government has taken it upon themselves to loot the common man, to rob you of your savings, of your retirement benefits, and of many other things. Questions are welcome, but we do hope that this will be carried, because price rise is pinching the common man, the common woman, every sphere of Indian society, from the farmers to the daily wage laborers, because inflation is a tax on the poor, a tax on India's lower middle class, and of course a tax on farmers and fishermen. Thank you very much.
Do you feel that there is a scam in vaccination?
Sorry, sir?
Do you feel there is a scam in vaccination?
I wouldn't use a word like scam, but I do believe that the government is looking the other way when it should be out there vaccinating every Indian and vaccinating him or her at free of cost. Quite frankly, there was a vaccination budget that was set up in the union budget. People contributed to the Prime Minister's Care Fund. It's also opaque. Nobody knows where that money has been utilized. Nobody knows how vaccination is being administered. Suddenly they come out and say you can pay and people above 18 can get booster shots. Why should people above 18 who contribute to this country's income via indirect and direct taxes not be liable for free vaccination? So all I'm trying to say is, I think the government is being extremely insolent and extremely insensitive in doing what it's doing.
My point is that earlier it was they were ready to give the vaccination for 150. Later it was reached to 200 plus. And now they were giving it for 600, 750 and 1,500 and so on. Now suddenly they have reduced it to 255 back. So it means that the production cost and the distribution cost is much lesser.
There is no deny the fact that the cost of vaccination and the cost at which private hospitals are administering vaccinations in a city like Delhi, private hospitals have cost us 1200 rupees per dose. So there is a huge gap between the procurement rate of the vaccines and the rate at which it's being administered. And I think the government of India is complicit in fleecing the common man for a simple thing like vaccination, for which India has never had to pay before.
Another thing, Mallikarjuna Kharge, the leader, is being questioned by ED on national adult case. How do you react?
I would simply want to say that agencies like the Enforcement Directorate or the CBI, or for that matter the income tax, have slowly and steadily become the frontal agencies of the BJP government. They are no longer independent or autonomous institutions that used to be. They are used to quell voices of protest, they are used to intimidate the opposition, and they are also used to keep their own rule in check. If you join the BJP, all the cases against you are suddenly closed and your spot is squeaky clean. And if you leave the BJP or if you oppose them, then these agencies will arrive. This is not the first time that the Congress party is being persecuted. We will continue to put up the fight that we always have, no matter who they question.
Amit Shah also says the Home Minister has asked to consider India as a national or related to regional language. What do you say?
I have a very strong view on this. I am primarily from Hindi heartland, but I do believe that the reason why India has survived as a single unit is because we have let diversity thrive. It's because people in Kerala can use the language that they choose to use, or in Tamil Nadu they can use the language that they want to speak or converse in, or Bengalis can speak their language, or Assamese can speak their language, and Hindi speaking people can speak Hindi. Any idea, any effort to distort that is simply going to divide the country along language lines. This government has not shied away from dividing this country on lines of religion, caste, region, and language being the new weapon. I personally feel every Indian should be empowered and should be given the freedom to speak, converse, work and talk in the language that they wish to. This Hindi imperialism that the BJP is trying to impose on non-Hindi speaking states should be condemned at the highest level, and we strongly condemn it.
There was an incident happened in JNU last night. The students were brutally attacked, allegedly by ABUP over non-veg food in the night of Ram. What's your response?
My big response to this is taking from the previous answer. We need to give people the freedom to eat what they want to eat, to dress up the way they want to dress up, to marry whoever they want to marry, to be in love with people of their choice, to speak the language that they speak in. This one effort to paint everybody with one brush, one stroke, is what is going to divide and destroy this country. And may I dare say, the JNU issue, because some people were eating non-vegetarian food, is not about Hindus and Muslims. There are enough number of Hindus who eat non-vegetarian during Navratri or Ramnavami or anything. There is a Vaishnav sect that may not eat meat. But there are Shaivites, there are people who worship the goddess. They not just eat meat, they offer meat as a sacrifice to the goddess during the Navratras and during the Dashera. Are you saying that there are any lesser Hindus than what the BJP wants to paint them to be? And violence on campus, I think, should be condemned at the highest level. You cannot force feed people, you cannot decide their choices. Who I love, who I want to marry, what food do I eat, how do I dress up, what language do I speak in, is a right given to me by my constitution. And let's uphold that.
The Muslim leaders have been targeted and imposed last month in Karnataka in the halal issue. What is your opinion?
I said what I had to, and I think it comes from the fact that fringe elements, hooligans, gundas, in the name of religion are attacking people. But what are governments doing? Why are governments choosing to be mute spectators instead of reacting, instead of holding these people to account? When political patronage is enjoyed by perpetrators of crime, we see things happen the way they are unfolding in Karnataka, or for that matter, JNU.